Good morning, everyone. I want to speak to you today about the plight of the Shetland ponies in the north of Morocco in the city of Meknes. So many of you will remember that, I think it must have been in excess of 2 months ago now, we rescued, or nearer to Christmas, we rescued Halima, whose photograph went viral when a tourist, who has subsequently become a friend, took the video of her being strapped in a most difficult position for tourists to photograph or sit their children on. She had a heavy saddle on her back. It was pitiful, and we could see she was pregnant. Now, we managed to get Halima down to our refuge. It was complicated, difficult, but I thank everybody who supported us at this time. And I say to the people who didn't and were actually challenging me that I was just trying to raise money and criticising me, I just hope they have learnt their lesson now, because we behave very openly in a transparent manner. And at the end of the day, we were the only association who managed to save this pony and her donkey. And I'll tell you why. Because if you're watching this from abroad and you have the natural response of, oh, how cruel, how terrible this is, report it to the police, just go and take them. You must look at the laws in Morocco, and it isn't always so straightforward. For a start, in relation to the police have been brought up against a background of Moroccan culture where historically it has been seen that it isn't cruel to keep an animal in this state on show for tourists in the square, and in the belief that it encourages tourists to actually come to Morocco. Now, that is changing because the nature of tourism is changing. But we are going to have to work very hard to ensure that at government level, the Minister of Tourism, the Minister of the Interior, and importantly, the police know this to be the case. Now, associations here, and the major associations, and there aren't that many. There is an amazing association in Fez, which isn't too far from Meknes, called the Fonduk, and it's an American association, and it has offered hospital care and emergency care to donkeys primarily in Fez. And we've enjoyed a good relationship and still do with them. There is another larger association. I don't need to go into that. Many of you will know the history between ourselves and them in relation to the rescue of equines. But associations will say, and they're absolutely correct, if the equine you're concerned about has an owner, there is nothing we can do. We're not permitted to take them. We are permitted in our association to take all abandoned and injured animals. And quite frankly, if we see one who is seriously being abused, we go ourselves and we challenge the owner. I'll share this with you. We play good cop and bad cop. I will maybe go along with Ayub, who will be diplomatic to the owner, explain why it's important that this animal comes into care, and then warns them that this crazy woman over here who is screaming and saying, you will not go to paradise, you will go to hell, will not stop. She will go to the court. She won't let it rest. And often we can come to an accommodation. When it came to Halima, so many people wanted to help, and so many people sent donations. And every donation that was sent was spent on Halima and her baby. And what we were able to do is bypass all the intermediaries and the third people who were getting involved in Meknes and get straight to the owner of Halima. And he was an elderly gentleman. He lived outside of Meknes. We bought her for a very reasonable price, and he agreed that he was now retiring and would not have any more. And he gave us the saddle. So we have Halima and her saddle, so it can't be used on another pony. He arranged transport immediately, and as many of you remember, on the way down by the side of the road, it was a very long journey, a 7-hour journey. The side of the road, she gave birth to her baby, and they are both here, much loved by everyone who's visiting. And we are in the process of building a specialised Shetland pony paddock. Now, I was therefore upset, distressed to have several messages yesterday where 2 Shetlands had reappeared on another square in Meknes, and they were there at 10 o'clock at night. They weren't in quite such a bad condition as Halima, but their front hooves were tied together, and that is unacceptable. So we have to start all over again. So I'm saying to all of you out there, please don't just write and comment and say, rescue them, don't take the photograph. What would you do in our situation? And we didn't take the photograph. It was sent to us to ask for help. If you just take them here in Morocco, you're likely to end up in the local jail. So people must get real. And also, people keep saying that it's a terrible country and there's so much cruelty. Yes, there is some cruelty, but there is incredible kindness. And all our staff are Moroccan. The people who helped us rescue Halima were Moroccan. We have so many Moroccan visitors, and attitudes are changing. That's the important thing. And I would remind people, particularly people in the UK, where I come from, if they go to Hampshire Horse Help, which is a charity that we have an association with in Hampshire, and they have the terrible horror stories of the way that equines are treated in England and also in Ireland. I'm not going to go on too much about that now, but it isn't just Morocco. And it's just too easy to say, oh, these are Muslim countries. Yes, we are a Muslim country, and predominantly Sunni Muslims who are kind and generous and observe the Quran. And those of you that visit will see over our main barn in the main paddock an excerpt from the Quran in Arabic, and our translation is that every living thing belongs to a community. The ill treatment of animals is actually forbidden, and so many people are often reminded of that by us, by the people who work with us and the people who support us. But now we have to have a strategy for getting the other 2 down. Now, realistically, if I go to the courts immediately, that is going to cost a fortune. I know that. I'm a barrister myself, but I don't have rights of audience in the Moroccan courts. So we have to use a Moroccan avocat. And in Moroccan terms, the fees are expensive and it will take time. Often, if we make even an emergency application, it may be 3 or 4 months before it's heard. That certainly happened to us here over some emergency situations. So we have to do something for the ponies in the meantime. So I want my colleagues in Meknes, the contacts I have now, to help me negotiate with these owners and really quite threaten them that tourists are not going to accept this any longer and they are harming themselves. And I say to you that do visit Meknes and are tourists, go to them, complain, tell them it's unacceptable. It isn't Moroccan children that are sat on the back of these ponies, it's tourists. So the people to blame primarily, as far as I'm concerned, are tourists who think it's okay to come to a country like this and sit their children on the back of a tied-up pony. So we will begin those negotiations. We may have to purchase them, and we will do it as efficiently as we can, and we will get them down here. Please don't worry about that. We also need to be contacting the Minister of the Interior and the Minister of Tourism. And some people have recently asked me on Instagram, who do they write to? And what I suggest happens is, it is quite difficult to write to government departments. You can't email them. It has to go by post, and it's often sort of removed before it even gets to the minister. I would suggest that do people want to write letters, send them to us at Georgia, and we will deliver them by hand. We go up to Rabat quite frequently because we have a reasonably good relationship with the Minister of the Interior, who we take our returns to at the end of every month. And I think that'll be the most effective way of getting the message through. Petitions tend not to work. You can sign a petition, they arrive wherever, I don't know, at the palace to go to the king, and you'll find I'm sorry to use the word, a bureaucrat slightly lower down. They're torn up and put in the bin. And I'm not saying that the king doesn't care. I think he does. And I think the ministers at government level care, but it's actually getting through to them. And here, in a very hierarchical system in Morocco, if they say this isn't to happen anymore, by the time the message gets down to local level and to the local caïds or the local gendarmerie or the police, it often doesn't happen. And it's very sad, and it is being wiped out. I give you a commitment that it is. But for so many years, you may have heard the term bakshish, money given under the table. And owners will do that. And historically, the police, the gendarmerie would take it. Our attitude has always been, we will never, ever give backhanders to anyone. Now and again, when drivers have been so kind, or we have a very good local gendarmerie who are very good to us, we will now and again, as a gift, share some oil with them, but always make it very clear. I will say, we're giving you this oil now, but if you see me on the road committing an offence, you stop me and you fine me properly. The only way forward, there's so much ground to cover, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do hope you stick with us. I hope you understand, and I hope you pass the message on. Bye for now.